Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to begin our scholarly examination of the Legend of Kamui. In 1987, Eclipse International, an imprint of Eclipse Comics, teamed up with Viz Comics. At the time, Viz was just a packager. They weren't their own publishing house. So they teamed up with Eclipse to actually publish them. But they did the translations, made the contacts with the manga companies in Japan. And around that time, there was barely any manga in America. Eclipse was one of the forerunners of translating manga and bringing it to America. This is basically reprinting a later Kamui story. Kamui began in 1964. He was the headline attraction of Garu magazine. And he was the creation of Sanpei Shirato, who had been drawing manga for a few years before that. The original series ran till kind of the early 70s, and then Sanpei Shirato kind of retired. And then in the early 80s, I believe 1982, he started a new Kamui story, and it ran into the mid-80s. And that's what this is reprinting. So this huge backstory, I don't have access to. But this is a pretty, easy to understand story. I don't think you need all that backstory. It would probably be for the best. Apparently, Drawn and Quarterly is reprinting that, or has reprinted that original 1964 to early 70s run of Kamui that was made for Garu. Let's check these out. This is just it's subtitled A Genuine Ninja Story. Genuine ninja story. Nice cover. I gotta be honest, I'm not well-versed in manga. Other than a handful of stuff that I love. Lone Wolf and Cubs, one of my favorite comics of all time. Maybe my favorite comic if somebody put a gun in my head. I love Junji Ito. I think just one of my favorite cartoonists in the world. At least storytelling. But other than that, I don't have much manga. I'm like one of those people who just like something, there's this wall. But then when I read manga, the manga that I do love, I fucking love. So it's a stupid thing. Probably because I grew up without it. And but I really like his art. The big eye thing, that's something for me to get over. I think that's a big thing why certain Americans don't like manga. Just the way they draw differently. So title page here, this is The Island of Tsugaru, Chapter 1. Ichijiro, Part 1. So each chapter is split up into 2 comics. Yumigahama, Bichu Province, Tsu Castle Fiefdom. Man, I just love this establishing shot. The way he draws these trees, the splotches of black ink. So simple and just so amazing. Really good stuff. We see the Lord of Castle Tsu, and he's on a hunting expedition with his retainers. They're having a great time, shooting at everything, all the critters in the forest. And Lord Tsu is chasing this deer, takes him down, and all of his retainers are complimenting his skill. And he says, actually, I owe it all to my horse, Ichijiro. When we hunt together, we're like a single being. I couldn't do it without him. I wouldn't be nearly as good a hunter if I didn't have Ichijiro. He's also quite remarkable because he's a chestnut horse, except for he has one pure white leg. So he looks very unique. Meanwhile, up in the trees, Kamui is just waking up from a nap. Totally doesn't even notice that an arrow almost hit him in the head during the hunt. Lord Tsu tells one of his retainers to take Ichijiro to a stream and wash and groom him. So he does just that. The retainer notices that all the fish in the stream seem to be really attracted to Ichijiro's white leg. He takes notice. And then lurking in the bush, we see this guy. And he's got a blowgun. and he shoots a dart right into the horse's ass and jumps out with an axe and chops off the horse's white leg. Pretty exciting. I don't know why I don't read more manga, because I've been, catching up on this. I haven't read these since the 80s. Man, all the action scenes are so exciting. All those tropes of Japanese manga, cartooning, the speed lines. It really does make it quite thrilling, all these action scenes. He holds the leg up in triumph and runs off. Lord Sue shows up, and of course he's furious. He's like, "After him, all of you, return with him, or not at all." He probably loves that horse way more than any of these guys. So this guy's running off with the hoof, and Kamui is just curiously watching to see what happens. They sick the hounds on him, and the hounds got him all surrounded. And then these rocks start hitting the dogs. And Hanbai escapes, climbs up this cliff. They're in hot pursuit. And then Kamui throws this trip line and knocks over most of the retainers. Lord Sue's got these archers up on the cliff, and they're about to shoot Hanbai, and he throws more rocks at him, knocks the bows and arrows right out of their hands. I love these scenes. He totally looks like Tarzan here, just swinging through the trees effortlessly. Hanbai notices. He's like, "What the hell's that guy doing?" So it appears that the archers totally get Kamui, and he falls to a seeming death. But when the retainers run up to the body, it's just Kamui's shirt, his cloak. Because ninjas they're like the shadow. They can cloud your mind. That's one of the powers of ninjas. They can make you see things that aren't really there or didn't really happen. They do notice, though, that there's a blood trail running away or leading away from the arrows in the shirt. They're like, "He's wounded. After him." But then we see Kamui up in a tree laughing to himself. He apparently got a rabbit and slit its throat, and he's been making a false blood trail with the rabbit's blood. Lord Sue's furious, of course, once again. He's just yelling at his retainers. "I'll see him hewn to pieces for this insolence. The man who killed my horse." Kamui comes down from the treetops, sees the dead horse, and this guy shows up and introduces himself. His name's Hanbai of Kushiki Island, and he thanks Kamui profusely. Kamui asks him why he did it. And he says, "Don't worry about it. But we'll find out soon enough." Kamui finds the guy kind of very intriguing. The fact that not only did he do such a brazen act, but he did it against a lord. That's something we're going to see in Kamui. Shirato was I think I've read, he was a Marxist. So there's a lot of class consciousness in this comic. So Kamui makes off. Sorry, I can't think of the expression. Never mind. He wanders off, and he catches this ferry. He's heading somewhere, but he doesn't even know or care where. He's just a wandering guy. And then all of a sudden, the ocean starts acting up. It's a huge storm breaks out. Man, just the way he draws these waves. So when you look closely, it's a bunch of slashing pen lines, but it looks so good. It really conveys the strength of the storm. So now we cut away to an island, and we see these two guys on the beach talking about how, "Oh, did you hear about that ferry that sunk? Probably no one's alive from that. A bunch of dead bodies have been washing up on the beach." And right then they look up ahead and they see a body, and it's Kamui. He's half dead. And who should it be who breaks through the crowd, who lives there? It's Hanbai. What are the odds? So Hanbai kind of does some kind of CPR type thing. And he says, quick, get him to my house. And he does all these things to get the water out of his chest. And he orders his family. He says, build up the fire, get some warmth into this room. The woman, the wife, she seems to be like, when she sees Kamui, there's some kind of recognition there. Something's up here. Like maybe she knows him. So then he tells his eldest daughter and his wife to take off their clothes and lay with him to warm him up. It does seem like, you know, even if you didn't take your clothes off, you'd warm him up just fine. But I guess this is a little more interesting. My daughter is totally into it. Of course, the mother is not. The mother is very reticent, but she does it because her husband told her that he'll die without this. Then we find out from the narrator, this woman, Oshika, she's not what she seems. Under her real name, Sugaru, she broke from the Iga ninja clan and has since been hiding from the ninja sent to slay her. We also find out that Kamui's in the same boat. He's an apostate ninja as well. Recently, he saved Sugaru from a group of Iga assassins. Distrusting his motives, though, she attempted to kill him and then fled. By a curious twist of fate, she's married to the fisherman Hanbai. So they stay up all night with him, warming him. I like this. Some of the women from the village knock on the door and like, oh, are you sure they don't need any help? And he's like, yeah, we're fine. Well, we'll keep warm and ready just in case. Yeah, thanks for the offer. These women all want to lay naked with Kamui. And then we got this nice camera pullback here. This is very kind of evocative. We have a biography of Sanpei Shirato. At the time, he was still alive. And all the back covers just kind of are a close-up of the cover art. Kind of a waste of a back cover, if you ask me. Now we get to number 2. Very interesting color here. This deep purple. I didn't mention that the lettering and the touch-up art is by Stan Sakai of Usagi Yojimbo fame. So now we got The Island of Sugaru, Chapter 1, Ichijiro, Part 2. Nice title page once again. Once again, very just slow-moving, setting up the scene, drawing beautiful landscapes. Like I said, I don't know much about manga, but I've read about it, and I know that's a thing in manga where they don't mind taking a few pages just to set up a shot, you know? It's they let the story breathe. They give the artist room. So the next morning, Kamui wakes up, and Hanbai introduces Kamui to his family. His wife, who he thinks is named Oshika, even though, of course, we know she's Sugaru. His daughter and his eldest daughter, Sayaka. And then he has these 2 little kids, a brother and sister. These kids are so freaking cute. They're really kind of funny. So a little later on, Kamui's sitting out on the beach, and Sayaka comes to chat with him. She kind of tells him her hopes and dreams for the future, how she wants to leave the island. But mainly we can see that she has a total crush on Kamui. What she doesn't see, though, is her mother using her ninja techniques to spy on them. And she does not look pleased. So one morning, we see the fishermen of the island, which basically everyone on the island's a fisherman. That's everyone's job. And Hanbai's going to take Kamui out on his fishing boat, teach him how to fish. The other fishermen are talking about how bad the fishing's been lately. It's just been, everyone's like going hungry. There's just not much fish in the ocean right now. I just love the way he draws a Hanbai. Kind of looks like Joe Kubert almost. But I just like how Hanbai's just always got a smile on his face, almost always. And he's just this really charming guy. Sayaka's telling Kamui that she fixed up the shed on their property. She says, you could live in it. I made it really nice in there. Maybe you could hang out for a while. And then all of a sudden, the father comes up. Hanbai says, Kamui, don't move. And he throws a spear right to the left of Kamui. And it's a manta ray. Somebody hit a manta ray under the dust outside of this shed. And you could probably imagine who it is. Because we see Sugaru looking furtively from behind this boat. I guess manta rays are pretty deadly. They've got poison. Later on, he goes into this the shed and this knife comes out on a stick. So another booby trap. We see Sugaru preparing dinner, and Kamui finally confronts her. And he's trying to convince her that he's not her enemy. She's like, I can't trust you, you're a ninja. So it's not working. She doesn't trust him. But then the two little kids run up and they're like, Uncle Kamui, they love him. Everyone in the family loves him except for her. So that night they're having dinner. A lot of fun banter around the dinner table. It's weird, these kids. It's not like they're drawn like Gilbert Hernandez would draw them, but they totally seem like they wouldn't be out of place in Palomar. The way he depicts these cute kids, these cute, funny kids, it reminds me of the way Gilbert Hernandez does that, when he does those little kid stories. So Hanbai's going to stay up late. He's working on this project. He's got all his tools out. And Kamui's looking in at his workshop, and he looks at his feet, and he realizes that there's makibishi all around. Caltrops, those little like spikes to make your enemies wound their feet. So he's like, someone's on the roof. And he jumps up there and is a ninja. And man, this just fight scene is just thrilling. This is like, they're like superheroes, these ninjas. Look at them, like, just flying through the air. So the ninja leaves, and Kamui's kind of shocked. He says, Kasumagiri, my own secret technique. That's the Misty Slash. This is some technique that Kamui thought only he knew, but this ninja used it against him. And he's like, it must have been Sugaru, but that's impossible. Because, I mean, it could have been a ninja from the Iga clan come to kill Sugaru and him too. So we cut back to Hanbai after some other nice quiet moments here. And he's working with that horse hoof. He's doing something with it. I like this, how he just spends like 4 pages just showing this guy doing this little project. And it's very interesting because you're like, what is he making? Like, no American comic would do that, you know, at the time. Just show someone making this little object with his tools. And we find out he's making a fishing lure. Because remember how that when the horse stepped in the stream, how the fish loved his hoof? So it's a very special lure. And when he's done, he is proud as punch. And he says, finished, my Ichijiro. Here we got rules, roles, and restrictions. The complex maze of feudal Japan. This is just a little historical background about what the hierarchy was like in Japan. You know, you got the shogun, you got daimyo, you got samurai, and just the way society interacted back then. Here we got number 3. It's really odd because no dogs appear in this comic. But according to this cover, it looks like he's like Kamui, Lord of the Dogs, you know? Really weird looking dogs. I was thinking, maybe this guy doesn't know how to draw dogs very well. But then I was thinking, think about it. 200 years, dogs looked way different back then. With all the breeding that goes on. I mean, in 1 century, we see dog breeds just totally morph and change. So maybe that's what dogs look like back then. I don't know. And in Japan, maybe they have different dogs. So now we have chapter 2 of the island of Tsugaru. Once again, it's going to be in 2 parts. This one's called Red Medusas, this chapter. And now we see the men all going out fishing. And Hanbai's got Kamui along. And this is such an interesting comic. It's basically a fishing comic. The bulk of this comic is just about these guys fishing. And it's totally interesting. And at one point, it gets downright thrilling. So it's so weird. Like, I can't even picture an American comic doing that, you know? Hey, this whole issue is about a fishing trip. But Kamui's kind of dwelling on this whole Misty Slash business. And he's reminiscing about using it. He's having a memory of using the Misty Slash technique against a foe. Just a little flashback here. Pretty great fight scenes here. Gotta read more manga. It's gonna be my New Year's resolution. Or my May Day resolution, I guess. Just chops this guy in half and his blood comes spurting out of his shoulder. So now he's back to the present, back in the fishing boat. And they see all these jellyfish. And Hanbai informs him that the fish ones you got to watch out for are the red jellyfish. They're poisonous. They can even make you go blind for a little while. That's how poisonous their sting is. So Hanbai takes out his new lure and they start fishing. He tells Kamui how fishermen all have to trust each other with their lives because, you know, the sea is a harsh mistress. So they also have this kind of code where they don't pry. If one of the fishermen is more successful, they're not going to give him shit for like, hey, what are you doing? How come you're getting all the fish? They all get it. Everyone has a good streak. So they set up a bunch of lines and they wait. Man, that's just a really nice shot. Just all the birds in the sky. So simple, but so nice. And finally, this giant sea bass goes for the lure. And he's, you know, while he's hauling it in, he's teaching Kamui how to fish, telling him all the little ins and outs. And they're just, pretty soon, they're just hauling them in, all these giant fish. And then after a while, they get this really big fish. It's a humongous one. It's a fish of unusual size. And he's so big, though, the lure breaks off. And Hanbai says, no, Ichijiro. And then right then, wouldn't you know it, a shark shows up. Totally eats that giant fish. And Hanbai, thinking on his feet, really quickly chops up a bunch of the fish that they caught, throws it in the water as chum, and tells Kamui, cover me. And he jumps in the water with the shark inside. And he descends into the depths to get his lure. That's how important this lure is to him. He's risking his life for it. Because it's the difference between him, him and his family starving. If the fishing is remains lean. So he grabs the lure and he's swimming towards the boat. The shark is right in his tail. And right when he's about to take a bite out of him, Kamui rams this harpoon right through his eyes. It looks like it's right through his brain. That is a pretty great panel right there. That's some exciting shit. And Hanbai is just laughing and happy. He's like, we got all this fish and I got my lure back. Life is good. We have a little thing about ninja weapons here. Shuriken and makibishi and all the other stuff. I guess ninjas like short swords. That's what I learned. They don't like the long samurai swords. Once again, really nice color choice, or at least interesting. I love this crazy greenish, aqua bluish. I guess it's more green, but just a really unique color. Really, I imagine this would have stood out on newsstands. So now we have part 2 of Red Medusas. So all the men return from their fishing. And Hanbai showing off his haul. And the family's really happy. His fellow fishermen are like, come on, you got a new lure, right? What's going on there? But they don't press him too hard because, like I said, they've got that code. But, of course, Hanbai keeps his secret. He doesn't tell him. Once again, I love the way he draws Hanbai. As soon as Kamui hits land, of course, Sayaka runs out. It's like, Kamui! She's in deep. So then a boat arrives on the shore, and it's these officials from Tsu Castle, and they inform the villagers about the horse being killed. They also say that anyone aiding or abetting the man responsible for this will be put to the sword. Furthermore, his relatives and in-laws, no matter how distant, will be put to the sword. So we realize Lord Tsu's kind of a cruel overlord. They put up a sign with the news about the reward if you're an informant, and it's only like 50 ryo, which I guess isn't a lot back then. And Hanbai says, he's a stingy lord, all right. And everyone laughs. So even though these guys are under the heel of this all-powerful lord, that's how this society was back then. Like a lord could just kill you on a whim. He didn't have to, there was no Congress or laws like that. But they're still not broken. And they're still defiant. So Tsugaru makes dinner for the family. We have another nice little dinner scene of funny banter. That cute little kid. She wants to marry Kamui too. She has a crush on him, even though she's like 4. And everyone's just thrilled with the news that Kamui's going to stay. Of course, Sayaka is really thrilled. She's all dewy. And of course, once again, Tsugaru is not thrilled. This kind of weird incident where for some reason, the little girl, pees herself. And the mother Tsugaru takes her into the next room and spanks her. She's really cute, this kid. Pretty funny dialogue coming out of her mouth. Hanbai fixes the lure, buffs it up, gets it back to working order. And Kamui feels like they're being watched. So he goes outside, walks out to the beach, and he sees Tsugaru. She's like, it's time we faced each other. Follow me in this boat. We're going to go to this little island. We're going to have a showdown. Of course, Kamui doesn't want to, but he knows that he can't convince her. What they don't realize, though, is young Sayaka is tailing them. She's swimming out to the island. She must have seen them get into their boats. So the battle begins. Well, first off, Kamui does these feats of strength. He doesn't want to fight her, so he's hoping to show how strong he is, so she'll back down. And then, this is total superhero stuff here. Kamui picks up a rock and breaks it with his fist. And then he breaks this tree branch with his elbow. And he's just breaking it into pieces with his feet, with his hands. But it looks great, though. It looks very exciting. And the battle begins. This is a great battle scene. Really, just he's so good at this. The way he tells his storytelling, his paneology, it's great for fight scenes. We see that Kamui uses one of the ninja arts, the transformation technique. It totally looks like he's coming at her. She stabs his body. It's just a log. So I guess, like I said, ninjas can cloud your mind, make you see things that aren't there. This is a great page of fighting. Them bouncing off each other in midair. She's throwing a shuriken at him. And they're pretty evenly matched. They're just flipping in midair. Look at this. They're flying around this mountain. It literally looks like there's Superman. They're just flying. It looks like they're flying around it. I guess they're just leaping and doing incredible leaps, but it's a very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, The whole time, though, Kamui's wondering how she's tracking him through the darkness. It seems like even though it's pitch black outside, she's right in his tail the whole time. So then Kamui falls off this cliff into the ocean. And Kamui notices that he's got sea glow on him. I don't know what sea glow is. I imagine it's maybe something from a seashell or something, a pulverized seashell. But basically it has a luminescence to it. So she put it on his back. That's how she's been tracking him the whole time in the dark. But then all of a sudden, Sugawara starts coughing. And she says, "Red Medusas." And she jumps into the water, swims to her boat, and gets away. And Kamui starts coughing. And we find out why. Sayaka isn't as naive as we thought. She says, "My plan worked. They can't fight with their lungs and eyes full of red medusa." The red medusa is that red jellyfish that Hanbai was talking about earlier. It's very venomous. When their bodies are dried in the sun, it turns into a dust. When it's scattered to the four winds, these airborne ashes carry the poison. It causes sneezing, coughing, and in severe cases, temporary blindness. So she wanted to stop them from fighting. So she threw up this red medusa. Here we got the 5 ninja arts: earth, water, fire, wind, and emptiness. They describe all of the techniques. And it's so weird. It says emptiness technique. Techniques were so secret and esoteric that no one really knows what they were. So all these centuries, nobody knows what the emptiness techniques are. Kind of interesting. So that's it, guys, for the first chunk of Kamui. I guess this is the first 2 chapters of the island of Tsugaru. And this comic goes on for 36 issues. I hope you enjoyed watching this, because there's going to be a bunch more over the next few weeks and months, unless I drop dead. But, man, I'm really excited to look at these more. I'm not going to read it until, the day before I make the next video. So I'll be in just as much suspense as you guys will be waiting for it, because I can't wait to read the next chunk of this. It's really fun and kind of annoying that I don't know why I bought this in 1987 off the racks and I didn't become a manga fan. because now I think this is so exciting and fun. This is some great stuff. So I guess that's it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.